Have you ever watched someone walk through chaos calmly? Like they're in a storm, but somehow the storm isn't in them? I used to think those people were born different, maybe colder, maybe detached. But the truth is, they've practiced, they've trained, they've built a quiet fire inside that doesn't get blown out by outside winds. Today, I want to tell you a story, not just one story, but six. 6 habits, 6 turning points, 6 choices made every day by people who have mastered the art of emotional control. And maybe, just maybe by the end of this video, you'll find a habit or all 6 that you can carry into your own life. Habit 1, they create space between stimulus and response. This is the invisible superpower of emotionally resilient people. When life throws a punch, whether it's a rude comment, a delayed flight, a partner snapping out of stress, they don't swing back. Not immediately, and that pause is everything. I once had a conversation with a retired Marine who had seen the worst of humanity, and he said something that stuck with me for life. In combat, the most dangerous thing isn't the bullet, it's the reaction to it. He went on, we were trained to shoot, yes, but more than that, we were trained to wait, count to 3 before you act. Because in those 3 seconds, you decide who you're going to be, a reactor or a responder. That wisdom I've carried into everyday life, because the truth is, we're all in some kind of battlefield, not with guns, but with traffic jams, tough conversations, online criticism, kids screaming while dinner burns. And every time something presses that emotional trigger, we get to choose. Fire back immediately or step back momentarily. The best I've seen, they step back, they breathe. 1 deep inhale, 1 slow exhale, and in that breath, they reclaim their power. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about making space for wisdom to enter. Emotional control doesn't mean you're cold. It means you're conscious. You're the eye of the storm, not the storm itself. Because once you master that tiny moment between what happens and what you do next, that's when you stop being a puppet of circumstance and start becoming the author of your own response. Habit 2, they name their emotions without judgment. This is one of the most underrated habits of emotionally grounded people. The ability to witness their emotions rather than become them. Instead of saying, I am angry, they say, I'm feeling anger. At first, that might sound like semantics, but it's not. It's a powerful shift in identity. Because when you say, I am angry, you are the emotion. It owns you. But when you say, I'm feeling anger, suddenly you're the observer. You're not the storm. You're the one inside the house watching it pass. That shift creates space, and in that space, there's power. I remember a friend who used to struggle with anxiety. For years, it ruled her life. Panic attacks, avoidance, insomnia. But one day she told me something had changed. She had started journaling daily, not to vent, but to identify, to name what she was feeling, when she felt it, without trying to fix it or judge it. Once I saw the pattern, she said, I stopped being afraid of the feeling. It became data, not danger. That awareness didn't erase the emotion, but it gave her a way to navigate through it. And that's the secret. People who master emotional control don't run from their feelings. They get to know them, like charting a map before a storm. They label the clouds, mark the winds, track the shifts. Because what you can name, you can tame. And when you bring awareness to your inner world, you stop being a prisoner of it and start becoming the guide. Habit 3, they build a morning fortress. While most people wake up and immediately hand their attention to the world, checking notifications, diving into emails, scrolling through social media, those who master emotional control do the opposite. They protect their first moments. No screen, no noise, just breath, just presence. They don't allow the outside world to shape their mindset before they've even connected with themselves. One woman I deeply admire, a therapist and single mother of 2, told me she wakes up at 5 a.m. every day. Not because she has to, but because she chooses to. She makes a cup of tea, sits by the window in silence, and writes 3 things in her notebook. What I feel, what I need, who I want to be today. That small ritual, done quietly and consistently, becomes armor. It grounds her. It helps her lead the day instead of letting the day drag her around. And when chaos hits, because it always does, she doesn't crumble. She returns to that morning anchor, that fortress of peace she built before the noise came in. Because here's the truth, if you don't claim your morning, the world will. And the world is not gentle. The world is loud, demanding, and distracted. But when you start your day with intention, you don't just set a tone, you set a boundary. You say, before I give to anyone, I give to me. That's not selfish. That's wise. Emotional control isn't born from reacting well to pressure. It's born from preparing well before pressure shows up. In the morning, that's your training ground, your sacred space, your silent power. Habit 4, they train like athletes, but it's mental. People who master emotional control understand something most of us overlook. The mind is a muscle, and like any muscle, it needs resistance to grow. So they train, not with weights or sprints, but with stillness, with discomfort, with silence. They meditate, they take cold showers. They go on long walks without music, without podcasts, without distractions, just them and their thoughts. Why? Because when you strip away the noise, the real training begins. I remember sitting with a Buddhist monk once and asking, how do you stay calm when someone insults you? He chuckled gently and said, oh, I don't always. I've failed many times. But each time I noticed. And that noticing, seeing, that's the training. And that answer hit me like a gong because we think emotional mastery means perfection. No anger, no fear, no mess. But the truth is it's about awareness. Noticing the moment your ego flares. Catching the spike of jealousy before it becomes resentment. Observing your tension before it turns into rage. These people don't wait until life overwhelms them to start practicing. They prepare daily, like an athlete before game day. They build mental reps the same way you'd build muscle, with consistency, with challenge, with purpose. And when life throws a curveball, because it always does, they don't collapse. They breathe, they pivot, because they've trained for that moment, over and over again, not in the spotlight, but in the quiet. Emotional strength isn't built in comfort. It's forged in the cold, the stillness, the resistance. Habit 5. They choose response over reaction and conflict. When most people are triggered, they lash out. They defend. They raise their voice, slam the door, send the angry text. But those who master emotional control do something radically different. They get curious. Instead of asking, how dare they say that to me? They ask, why did that hurt me? What story am I telling myself about this? That shift from blaming to exploring is what sets them apart. Because emotional control isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's not about pretending you're okay when you're not. It's about channeling the energy to where it matters. Like a master archer, they don't fire the moment they see the target. They breathe, they steady, they aim. And when they do release, it's not out of rage, it's out of clarity. I remember watching a father once as his teenage son shouted at him in frustration. The room felt tense. Everyone expected the dad to yell back, but he didn't. He just paused and said, you're angry. I can hear that, and I'm here. When you're ready, I want to understand. That moment, that was power, not loud, not forceful, but unshakably grounded. People who choose response over reaction understand this truth. The loudest voice in the room isn't the strongest. The calmest one is. And calm isn't weakness. Calm is control. Calm is restraint. And restraint is strength, multiplied by wisdom. Habit 6, they forgive not just others, but themselves. This perhaps is the most difficult habit of all, because forgiveness asks us to release the very thing our ego clings to, the story of how we were wronged. But those who master emotional control know this truth intimately. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. It eats you from the inside. It clouds your judgment, tightens your chest, and traps you in a cycle of bitterness. So they let go. Not because what happened didn't matter. It mattered. It hurt. But their peace matters more. They choose to forgive others not as a gift to the offender, but as a liberation for themselves. And even more importantly, they forgive themselves for the mistakes made in anger, for the words they wish they could take back, for the nights they fell apart, lost in emotion. Because shame is a heavy chain. It keeps us anchored in the past. It whispers, you're not enough. You're broken. But self-compassion breaks that chain. It says, yes, you've stumbled, but you're still worthy. You're still growing. I once heard someone say, you can't hate yourself into healing. And it stuck with me. Emotional control isn't about perfection. It's about repair. Repairing the relationship with yourself first. Because once you make peace inside, the chaos outside doesn't hit as hard. You become softer yet stronger, gentle yet unshakable. Forgiveness in the end is not a weakness. It's the highest form of strength, a silent, sacred surrender, not to the pain, but to freedom. These 6 habits are not superpowers. They're quiet practices, done daily, often in silence, seen by no one but deeply transformative. And the best part, anyone can begin, even you, especially you. Because here's what I've learned. You can't control the world, but you can master the way you move through it. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. Emotional control doesn't mean becoming emotionless. It means becoming grounded, aware, aligned with your deeper self. Even when life gets noisy, even when the winds howl. So now, take a breath and ask yourself, which habit spoke to you the loudest? Which one will you begin, even if it's just for 2 minutes today? Let me know in the comments. And if this video gave you even one moment of clarity, hit the like button, subscribe for more tools to build your inner world, and please share this with someone who needs a reminder that peace isn't something you find, it's something you build. Habit by habit, choice by choice, day by day. I believe in you. Now go build it.